Okay, so let's start.
Yeah.
Welcome to NIICE Viewcast. Today we have Professor Zhang Jiadong to discuss on the issues related to China and South Asia with a special focus on China-India-Nepal relations. Professor Zhang Jiadong is the director of Center for South Asian Studies and senior researcher at Center for American Studies, Fudan University, Shanghai. His research focus includes China, India, US relations, South Asia issues, and anti-terrorism issues. He is also the Dean of BRI Institute of Strategy and International Security, Fudan University. He is a former diplomat. He has worked as second secretary at China's embassy in New Delhi. He holds his Ph.D. from the School of International Relations and Public Fudan University. He has published several books and articles at reputed journals. He loves to play basketball, listen music, and traveling. Welcome to our show, Professor Chang.
Yes. Okay.
Let me start with the first question. The situation in China has finally normalized after the COVID-19 crisis. It has got firm control on the virus. What were the policies adopted by the Chinese government to control the spread of the virus? What lessons should South Asia take from China?
So, Chinese approach for control COVID-19 virus. The first, most important, I think, is Chinese take a kind of people-oriented or people-utmost approach. And the Chinese culture is very different from lots of cultures worldwide. And in our Chinese culture, human life is about everything, about economic developments, about image of face of governments. So China, and we have a tradition to respect human life since ancient times, not just the modern time. And we believe that the human life is the foundation of every possible activities. So we can find the Chinese government, what they done, what they have done. Once they find academic situation in Wuhan was a very clear situation, we understand this very clearly. Then Chinese government quickly adopted very strictest control measures, locked down 4 cities, Wuhan, and blocking entire city, and finally blocking most of China, including Shanghai. I'm staying in Shanghai. So this point is very important. The second point is a very high degree of coordination. And in China, we are very important appearance, and is very high degree of consistency from top to down. And when such governments say what should be done, and then local governments and must adopt this regulation. So it is very important in Chinese system. And we also have very high degree of coordination between different regions and between different departments. For example, and even in Shanghai situation was very severe 2 months ago, 3 months ago. But the Shanghai city also organized lots of medical people and medical products to Wuhan. So it is very important for China combats virus. And China also can organize and coordinate many different departments, from transportation departments to food industry to medical industry. So it's very important. The third point is for China, we have very good mutual understanding and mutual accommodation for each other. And in China, we have a lot of complaint and complain about officials, complain about governments, but not much people complain any people in other region. For example, I am in Shanghai. In Shanghai, we do not complain Wuhan people. We do not complain Hubei people. And we think Wuhan city, they are biggest victims. And Wuhan people have won at least 2 months for Chinese, for even the full world. So we did not complain anything about the Wuhan people. I think very important. So for people in South Asia, I think Chinese appearance, I think 2 points are important. The first, the economic development is very important. And China can take this because China have built a good economic situation. Secondly is infrastructure construction is very important. And even Chinese people can't travel smoothly and frequently when lockdown. But the Chinese transportation, our food transportation, our product transportation is still very well. It's still good. It's very important. So I think after this pandemic situation, and the people and the countries in South Asia and can take something to develop economy, to build a better infrastructure. So, thank you.
Okay, next question is, what will be the impact of COVID-19 on China-South Asia overall relations as well as on trade relations?
So this pandemic, I think, may make lots of countries and regions and more inclined to establish a localized, nationalized production chains. And I think it should become a new normal, specifically relevant to national security issue, life and health issue, and I think is normal. So this process will produce some challenges as well as opportunities for the relationship between China and South Asia. Firstly, I think it will create lots of challenges for our relationship. And for example, it will weaken economic and trade relationship between China and India. And India will say, okay, we should build some national production chain. We should produce something within India, not just import from China and from other countries, specifically for medical products. I think it's normal. But we still can find some good news. From the perspective of opportunity, I think no region, not any country can really build a completely self-sufficient production system. We want, but we can't. We can't. So the supply chain can only be shortened maybe, but can only be just limited to any single country. So China and Asia, and we are neighbors. So, and between China and South Asia, we have a very good, very convenient marine transportation system. And between China and South Asia, the land transportation system is also developing between China and Pakistan, between China and Nepal, and between China and Myanmar. I think we are building these things. This means we are neighbors. For a localized production chain, and China and South Asia will have more chance for trade, more chance for a closer economic ties. So in this sense, I think China's relations with South Asian countries have a lot of room for further developments.
Okay, our third question is, how is COVID-19 going to impact China's Belt and Road Initiative, especially in regard to the projects of South Asian countries?
And the COVID-19 impacts on Belt and Road Initiative is different in different regions, in different kind of projects. Just to focus on South Asia. In South Asia, China's BRI projects, such as in Nepal, in some countries, they are very big projects. They are very sensitive for short-term influence, such as some dam. Dam is decades-long projects, and these kind of projects, if these kind of projects can't cope with the impacts of pandemic, it will be also very difficult to cope with other kind of impacts in the future. So I think these kind of projects should be continued, should be not much influence from pandemic. But of course, the impact is still there. The pandemic has drastically reduced foreign economic ties, not just between China and South Asia, it's also between China and America and other countries. It's a worldwide issue, and China's foreign exchange earnings have also been affected. So traditionally, Chinese investments in South Asia will usually use US dollars or other kind of international monies as a career. But this kind of model may be under heavy pressure. Maybe we must transform this kind of US dollar supported investments to renminbi or other currencies supported investments. This means China and the South Asian countries, we must find a kind of new financial solutions under this kind of new situation.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. The next question is like, there is a perception in South Asia that since President Xi Jinping came to power, China has given more importance to South Asia. Like in the past, it was only limited to Pakistan and India, but since President Xi Jinping came to power, there is like more importance to other South Asian countries as well. Do you think it is true?
I think it is true. South Asia for China, they have lots of different significance. South Asia is our neighbor. South Asia is in the very important marine routes between China and the Middle East, between China and Europe, very, very important. And specifically for BRI, for Belt and Road Initiative, South Asia were also very important. So I think China has also attached lots of importances to develop relations with South Asian countries. Not only just with India, not just with Pakistan, and we are developing our relationship with every possible countries in South Asia. For example, and the relationship between China and Sri Lanka is also going well, and between China and Bangladesh is also have also made good progress. Maybe the only exception is Bhutan. Bhutan not because China's issue, is because third-party factors issue. And so I think President Xi Jinping already gave lots of chance. I think we should take the chance for a much better relationship.
Recently, China has sent more than 400 tons of equipment to India. Nepal also received 2.5 tons and other medical supplies from China. Similar medical assistance was provided to Pakistan and other South Asian countries. Chinese businessman Jack Ma also donated to several countries. So my question is, how do you look at China's response to COVID-19 in South Asia, the overall mask diplomacy, or people call it health diplomacy? There is also a concept of health Silk Road in China these days. So how do you look at it?
So personally, I know lots of people like to use concepts of so-called mask diplomacy, health Silk Road, this kind of words, health diplomacy. Personally, I don't like this. I don't like any concepts use this, because mask, health is not any relevant to foreign policy. It's relevant to human being, to human lives. So it is not a diplomatic issue or political issue. The COVID-19 virus is a threat to human being, not a threat to nation states, not a threat to bilateral relations. So in China, when in China, the epidemic was very serious, almost all South Asian countries give us lots of helps. Different countries do different level helps. Every country from India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, every possible country. So at that time, we are not aware this virus will also spread to South Asia. We do not have this kind of idea. So today, when the pandemic in South Asia was severe, it happened in China is much stable. So we have lots of chance, we have lots of production, we have lots of appearance, and we should do back to South Asian country. So I don't like use diplomacy, any kind of diplomacy. It's just a human being. It's just a kind of humanitarian assistance, I think. So China's assistance to South Asian country, and you can see India gets most. Actually, China-India relationship is not very good, but India gets most. You know why? Because India's issue is the most severe, and India have most population. They need the biggest help, just like this. So I think we should separate humanitarian issue from a political issue, from a diplomatic issue. So this issue is far higher than any national interest, is higher than any diplomatic considerations.
Thank you. Recently, the Chinese foreign minister made a statement that US is pushing China towards the brink of a new Cold War. What is your take on this? Do you think China-US competition or rivalry will have an impact on China's relation with South Asia, particularly China's relation with India and China's relation with Nepal?
So for this question, I also noticed this statements. The Chinese foreign minister, Mr. Wang Yi, mentioned this. Actually, in China, in United States, even in worldwide, lots of worries about a possibility of a new kind of Cold War. But personally, I think till today, China-US relationship are far from being a Cold War, any kind. I personally, I do not think China-US relationship will reach that level. Even China-US relationship, we are facing lots of issues. It's much worse than the past. You know, is the biggest difference is the former Soviet Union and the United States. They are relationship. They are these kind of two countries. You know, they are economically they are separated from each other. Politically, they are opposed each other. Militarily, they are hostile each other. That between the former Soviet Union and United States, you can't find any profound ties. But the total difference between China and the United States, total difference. So this basically do not exist between our two countries. You know, China and the US, we are country, we are developing in same system. This system is a market economy system. It's an international market economic system. So the competition between China and the United States is not a competition between two systems, two models. It's actually is a competition between different development methods within same market economy framework. It's very different. It's very different. Of course, China-US competition sometimes is normal. It's for two great powers. It's very hard to two great powers to stay quietly. They must make some noise. And but I do not think this will develop some kind of conflict in South Asia. South Asian countries, and whether they are India and Nepal, whether they are big or small, do not need to stand between two countries. And you can develop a relationship with China, with the US at the same time. And of course, India may be using different. But India is a bigger power, and India maybe have more concern about strategy. But it's still not necessary to take a side to stay. They still can take neutral.
Okay, thank you. Let us move to India-China questions now. Like this year, India and China mark 70 years of their diplomatic relations. How do you look at last 70 years of their relations? In which direction is the relation moving?
So, you know, the past 70 years for two countries, and you can see some honeymoon period. You also can find a very severe period. So China-India relationship can be roughly divided into 4 stages, I think. The first is the honeymoon period. It generally will be from 1949 to 1962. The second is a conflict period. It may be from 1962 to the late Cold War. Not the late Cold War, maybe 1980s sometimes. And the third stage is normalization, re-normalization of our relationship. It is generally from end of Cold War to around 2008, maybe. And today we are in the fourth stage, China-India relationship. Today's relationship is not just a bilateral relationship, actually. Today's China-India relationship is also a kind of relationship between major powers. It's very different from the past. In the past, between our two countries, we mainly concern about the issue, we mainly concern Dalai Lama issue, we mainly concern Pakistan issue. But today, very different. Today, between China and India. And in addition to the other issues I mentioned, we also have lots of new issues, such as unbalanced trade, such as China-US relationship and engagement issue at sea, and China-India cooperation, as well of competition on the international arena. We have lots of issues, but anyway, and generally, the importance of China and India relationship is increasing. Is a coming inter-power relationship. So it's diverse, and many people, including specifically for Chinese and Indian people, to take more consideration for this kind of new kind of relationship between powers. Okay, for this one.
Professor, there might be some problem with
It's okay. I'm waiting. It's okay.
Dr. Pramod Jaiswal. Let us move to the recent border conflict between the two countries. There was standoff between India and China at 3 places in Ladakh, and one in North Sikkim as well, Nakula. Could you please put light on this issue about how did this issue erupted all of a sudden when the world was amidst a pandemic, and what is the current situation there? Maybe what should both the countries do to maintain peace and tranquility along the line of actual control?
And I think, you must understand, the border issue between China and India is actually is very, very complicated one. Is relevant to a very big mass of territory. And and I think there are at least three kind of factors. The first is climate change. Climate change has caused lots of glaciers between China and India to melt. There are more and more areas for both sides to portray petrol. So the second factor is, both countries' border defense capabilities have risen very rapidly. So this led to a rapid increase in the frequency and the intensity of patrols, and so this increased the chance of encountering military personnel from both sides. So the third kind of factors is the international environment. So currently, I think, and some people, specifically in Indian side, they think China's international environments have lots of problems. So we are facing pressure from US, and we must handle lots of issues. I think logically, some people in India, they must think they can take this chance to get something from China side. So this kind of factors are very important. So today, India has a very close military relationship with US, and also purchased lots of advanced military equipment from US. So I think this may enhance the confidence of some people in Indian side to take something more, to do something more. So however, I think the peace and the stability in the border area between our two countries is still guaranteed. In the past 20 or 30 years, not any bullets were shotted. It's very important. Of course, we also should take more concern for one issue. Even stability and security between China and India, the stable is also flexible, but flexibility and usability is limited. Should not be overly challenged and tested. So, and some issue you mentioned today between China and India is very bad one. They are breaking, they are open some door for more dangerous. I hope our Indian friends should take a more responsible stand on our situation. Thank you. But not. I can't hear.
Dr. Jaiswal, you are muted. Please unmute yourself.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. China is a major exporter to India, which is more than 500 billion RMB. But since the pandemic, all imports has been restricted from China to India. Recently, Indian Prime Minister Modi also announced the need of self-reliance, which he called Atmanirbhar, which is in Hindi, to achieve global leadership after the COVID-19 crisis, and has appealed Indians to buy local goods. How did China respond to it? What is your assessment on it?
So, pandemic actually has strengthened our consideration of economic security and economic self-sufficiency. Not just India, including China, lots of countries. So I think it is normal. In fact, China is also doing something similarly. So in addition, India has raised similar issues before pandemic break out, not just today. So this is not the first time for India to say this. So currently is in the is in the pandemic period. So people, I think, are more panic and because they are worried. So lots of statements will be very extreme. I think it's normal. So I believe that any country must balance two issues. The one side is economic security, just like you mentioned. Another side is economic efficiency. So term economic security is very hard for any country to balance. So therefore, I do not think any country, whether it is US, it is China, it is India, not any country can build a completely self-sufficient economic system. No country can do it. So of course, short-term economic and trade issue between China and India, between China and other countries. But personally, I am not worried very much. So I believe one issue: the market economy is a far more powerful force than any others, than states, than army, than policies. Market economy is above every others.
Okay. You said that again, like it is connect to the same question, like Chinese foreign direct investment into India is almost 6.2 billion US. Are these developments going to slow or stop the flow of Chinese investment in India?
So currently India's attitude towards the Chinese capital will affect Chinese investments in India. It's true. It's true. But this is a short-term issue, I think. I understand India's concerns. India concern one issue, because during pandemic period, India's assets price will be underestimated. So India concerned during this, and it may be possible for Chinese companies to do something to bottom out Indian assets. There were this. But I also understand India still need foreign money. They still need external funds. So I think after pandemic, Chinese companies will still have lots of chance in India. It's just a short-term issue, not a long-term issue, I think.
Nepal and China enjoys good relations. Recently, Nepal objected to the inaugural of link road to Mansarovar via Lipulekh by Indian Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, as Nepal claims it as its own territory. When Nepal raised concern over this disputed territory, Indian Chief of Army Staff remarked that third country, hinting at China, provoked Nepal. How is this issue taken in China?
Sometimes I do not quite understand the logic of Indian officials say. So Nepal is a sovereign country, is an independent country. Even Nepal is small. It's small comparing to China, to India, because China-India is so big. So Nepal is small. But Nepal's sovereign rights is not small. It's equal to any other countries, I think. So some Indian officials insist on a kind of very traditional Indian doctrine. And doctrine, they believe India is a natural core of South Asian subcontinent. So India should also be a natural leader in South Asia. And I know this. But other neighboring countries should, should have their own rights. So this kind of Indian thinking is not a real value in the current world. It's a traditional colonialist value. So in the territorial disputes between India and Nepal and China, I think we do not have any position between this. We will not support either side, but China should support one issue. We should protect, help any sovereign country's rights to handle this. And the bigger power shouldn't handle small power in this issue. So I think Chinese should help any country to preserve their freedom, preserve their rights to solve disputes, and in accordance with international law.
Okay. And Nepal has raised similar concern when Lipule was mentioned in joint statement of May 2015, released during Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to China. Similarly, media report states that China is also claiming certain parts of Mount Everest as theirs. However, here people in Nepal accuse that even China is encroaching Nepalese land like Indians. What is your comment on it?
You mentioned that joint statement between China and India. I think this joint statement just shows China agrees Indians can enter China from Liplik Pass and to take commercial activities, to take religious activities, and near Liplik Pass, they have a very important Hindu holy place, Manasalava and Kailash, something like this. And but the issue of sovereignty issue about which country should have a Liplik Pass is not within China's consideration. So we think it is a dispute between India and Nepal. If any people from this side, it should be okay. We welcome everyone from this pass. But I think maybe Nepal also can sign a kind of joint statement or a kind of agreements. And Nepalese people is also can go through Liplik Pass, go into China for economic, for religious activity. I think it's okay. And of course, Indian side has used these joint statements to exert some pressure on Nepal. We understand this. And we also noticed this. I think for Chinese, we should pay attention to this problem in the future and reduce the chance of being used by other countries. And for Everest, Mount Everest, I think it's a good case between China and Nepal. And there's not much disputes between China and Nepal. Until today, not much officially challenge or disputes over this. I think it's a good case for any country to take this.
Indian media and a small section in Nepal see Chinese hand in the unification of communist parties of Nepal. Recently, there was internal conflict among the top leaders of Nepal Communist Party. It was reported that the problem got resolved only after Chinese intervention. How far is it true?
Actually, I do not know much about this issue. I don't know how interactions, how engagements between Nepal Communist Party and Chinese Communist Party. I don't know this. But anyway, Nepal Communist Party is a legal party, is a normal party in Nepal, and is also a ruling party actually. And it is elected by Nepalese people and in a diplomatic process. So I think for any political party, they have power, have a right to develop its relationship with any other country's parties. It's normal for have some relationship between Nepalese Communist Party and the Chinese Communist Party. In fact, and even between Nepal Communist Party and the Indian political party, they have lots of similar interactions and engagements. So of course, I also must acknowledge, because two Communist parties, their ideologies are very similar, and it's very logically, very likely between these kind of two parties have much deeper communication or engagements. I think it's also reasonable and logical issue. So, but actually, I don't know this story. Is right or not right? I don't know.
Okay. So our last question for today is how do you think like Nepal-China relation is going to change after Chinese President Xi Jinping's visit to Nepal last October? Do you think there will be a major change in the relations?
So I think President Xi Jinping's visit to Nepal, it is a very, very important one. Very important. It's a very rare case for Chinese highest leaders to visit Nepal. So about Xi's visits is very important, and it shows his personal respect of Nepal and the personal respect of Nepalese people. I think it's also based embodiment of and for his attention on China-Nepal relationship. I believe, and the relevant. I also suggest relevant departments of two countries should seize this opportunity to do a much better job for a deeper connectivity, for a much better cooperation between our two countries. And this for the better connectivity, better relationship between our two countries. It's not just an issue between modern Chinese and modern Nepalese. Between us, we have very traditional ties, at least since Tang Dynasty. It's more than 1,600 years ago. And it's before that. And from Chinese then capital Xi'an over Himalaya, and we have a land passage to Nepal, to Nepalese then capital city. So it's a very long routes and long ties, and I want and the friendship between our two countries should become much wider and smoother. And Xi's visit is a very not start, but it should a good start for a much better relationship.
And thank you, Professor, for your time. We really learned a lot and got to deal with a number of issues which are very important for the three countries. We'll continue to have this kind of engagement in the future as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers.